Hey, and hello everyone. Welcome to the ComicBase live stream. We actually start off with a decent launch for once. Thank you very much to our mod Greg Hecht on that one for helping out with the sound check, all those things that we do beforehand, so we can try to sound like we know what we're doing. And that's of course quickly dispelled by the first moments in the show. But anyway, welcome everyone. For the next hour or so, we'll be talking about all things ComicBase related. In particular, we'll be going into a preview of what is new in our big quarterly update. Now, for those of you who don't know these things ahead of time, we are working on ComicBase pretty much constantly. So, sometimes, once every couple of days, sometimes several times, per hour, we will drop a new version of ComicBase out there into the world. And if you want to see all those ones, you can always just download the very latest version of the software from the link that you registered from. But we also know that that's exhausting to most normal people. You don't want to be getting updates every 2-3 seconds. Pay attention to Firefox and folks like that. So as a result, what we try to do is once a quarter, we roll up everything we've been doing into one big update that everyone can get, and that's the one where we change the second part of the version number. Right now we're at 23.1. This will be 23.2, and at that point, it goes out to everyone in the world, and it kind of catches everyone up, so we're all on the same page. So anything that we've added in terms of new features, any bugs that we fixed that we don't want to be talking about anymore, because darn it, we've handled this already. We get to say, well, hey, just make sure you're on the right version of the software and you'll be good to go. Now, if on the other hand, you do want to see every little thing that we're doing as we go along, just go under ComicBase's preferences, go to setup preferences, and then where it says check for updates, just check off the part that says, yeah, I want to check for updates every time I open the database, and go ahead and include the preliminary updates. And at that point, you'll get to see everything we're doing, including all the little things that we sneak in and all the little bugs. So that is certainly an option. But anyway, before we get into it too far, let me say hi to everyone here. Thomas B., I think you're first in line that I saw. Welcome from Northern Virginia. Right on. Yeah, it's actually turning about weather, man. It's starting to get hot out here, and at the end of February out here in beautiful Franklin, Tennessee, just outside Nashville. I had the windows open until just about 2 seconds before showtime. Okay, Richard Scott, welcome. And snowing, it's snowing in I believe that's Portland area. PDX is, hopefully I got that right. Holy cow. Yes, right. Portland. Yes, Portland, Oregon. Mike Beam, welcome. Jet City Comics. Nice to see everyone here. Josh Schultz, Robbie Weinberg. Heavy rain, 34 degrees. So, wow. All right. So the South, y'all, it's actually kind of rolling at Larry's Library. Welcome here. And Greg Hecht is taking a victory bow here for all his help he did beforehand. Xanadu Comics from Seattle as well. Fred Slota from West Virginia, Northwest Virginia. Cool. How far? I'm just curious, man. How far away from oh god, what's the Mothman place? Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. You guys will have it in the chat in 2 seconds, I know. But uh, P Point Pleasant, I believe, but West Virginia. Just curious, how far are you there? Because we actually stopped by on our last family trip through the area. We actually stopped by at the Mothman Museum, and if you guys have ever played Fallout 76 or whatever else, it's a trip. There's actually a giant statue of the Mothman right in the center of the of town, and it's crazy. We had a Mothman pizza. All right, and by the way, being warned by our mod here in the use of professionalism. Make sure you melee the like and subscribe buttons, and we'll hit those. Hey, I also to Oro and Ed Billiard come in here, and so yeah, let's get the show on the road, man. All right, so as you guys know, like I say, the new version of ComicBase, we're expecting it to drop sometime in the next few days. I'm holding out for a little bit in terms of building the final versions that are going to be forced on everyone. But if you want to see what we're going to be doing, you can download it probably in the next 24 hours or so. You'll see it is our latest point release. The thing I want to do, like I say, we want to always put that out for people and make sure we take care of any weird little initial glitches before we put it out into the world and then force everyone to download it. Some of the things that I'm wanting to test, and so if any of you have these situations, please raise your hand and get in touch with me either by chat here. Let me go ahead and have I got the Chiron? No, sorry, I lost the. Oh, let's see. Yeah, no, I don't. Oh, there we are. Gosh, more stuff on my soundboard is working today than I think has ever worked before. But, yes, go ahead and hit me there, hit the message below there, if you'd like to be part of any of these kind of advanced testy things before we put out into general release. In particular, I'm looking for people who have one of the 2 situations. One, if you upgraded to ComicBase 2023 and you're running ComicBase in some kind of emulation mode on a Mac, and if you had any trouble whatsoever with the, print engine, that we use for ComicBase, it's SAP's Crystal Reports. They did put out a brand new service pack of that beleaguered program, and I wanna know if any of the people who had experienced any trouble, if that has any effect on you, good or bad. If it doesn't, honestly, I don't wanna touch it. It's not worth the trouble going through, uh, the hassle of certifying their service pack, and that isn't gonna cause some kind of weird thing down the line. It's a lot of testing, but on the other hand, if it did help you out, I do wanna talk to you and see if that has any effect for you, good or bad. They don't put out nearly enough service packs for that program, but they just dropped one a couple days ago, and I'm dying to know if there's anything positive about it. Um, the other thing about that I'd like to do is if any of you folks have or are coming from, and it can be anyone who's hearing this podcast on the rebroadcast as well. I believe it's CLZ's Comic Collector. I forget the name of the software exactly, but if you're coming, the CLZ one, if you have any data from that you're trying to transfer over, you guys have probably known that it exports on one hand in a fairly regularized export format, so thank you for that. Unfortunately, the way they categorize so much of their data is so alien, um, that you can have a fair amount of trouble moving it into other programs. So we've rigged out, and this is one of the few things I'm putting down as an experimental feature, but we have put out an experimental version of the import that will try to automatically find items from a CLZ import, match them up by barcode and a lot of other trickery, and see if we can get high confidence matches to their official designations in ComicBase. If you have data like that you would like to sacrifice for our testing purposes, basically just so we can lead you through the creating of a test file, and then we can run it through just to test how much of our data we're able to scrape automatically without any kind of further involvement from you. I would please get in touch, pbickford at human-computing.com, because again, the way these things get better is if you test them on lots of different people's data. So if you are falling in either of those 2 categories, please reach out. But I'd love to talk to you, especially in the next couple of days. All right. And Fred Slow says, West Virginia is surprisingly wide. Yeah, it is. With that little tongue that extends almost to Washington, D.C. Point Pleasant's about as west as you can be is considered northern. Wow. About 2.5 hours away. All right, cool. Yeah, good to know. Okay, so let's talk about what we have done in the last quarter here that it merits a brand new quarterly release. It isn't just that the time has come, although the time has come, but what have we done? Well, the first story of all this has always got to start with content. Um, I ran the numbers ahead of time just because, well, we just spent about a week doing nothing but compressing pictures and trying to fit them onto different amounts of disks. And as usual, I'm stunned by how much new data that we're shoving down the pipe on this one. By the way, and if you are of a mind to, you can download this right now because we've updated all the picture images that come out with all the discs. So if you have either the archive editions or the pro editions, the brand new picture archives that come with that are downloadable right now. You can get it just instantly. So the archive edition now contains over 931,000 covers. I believe the correct number is 931,576, if I have it right. And yes, this is so many covers that we stopped bragging by covers in anything less than 25,000 increments for the purposes of what we put on boxes and things like that now, or the website. But when we finally had to try to shove all that new stuff onto discs, that was the number that was in there now. And that's after, by the way, we cleaned the picture library of any cruft, any doubles and things like that. So that is the number. And it's about 50,000 more pictures that we had than when ComicBase 2023 launched about 6 months ago. So we're adding stuff to it just in an enormous clip. And also along with that, I was a little shocked that the professional edition. Now, the professional edition isn't meant to have photo reference for everything. It's meant to have a photo reference for the first issue, so you know that you're on the right title. The archive edition is the one that's crazy enough to say, "Hey, let's try to get pictures of every comic book, magazine, whatever else that's ever existed." That was the crazy version of that one. But the professional edition, which is only meant to have the number ones, now has over 73,000 images in it. I believe it was 65,000 on the last one. That is a decent amount of new pictures. And if you have the Pro edition and you're not thinking about going to the archive right away, I would at the very least go ahead and download the new picture archive from your Pro installer page and install those, because then you'll get the number one picture of all the new titles, new releases, and especially with DC doing a lot of one-offs and things like that, it's nice to have that photo reference wherever you can get it. So definitely do it. Let's see here. Oh, and Fred Slittle wants to say, for those of you who might be interested, I have an Excel spreadsheet that can analyze the data, export, and find holes. Definitely. Find gaps from 1 to 10 if you if issue series, etc. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it would be cool. There's also yeah, I go a couple different ways with that one, but the the particular art that we have that we're trying to exercise for, what's it say, for the CLZ importer, the trick we've gotten so many cases is, uh, how can you know with a great deal of confidence that their A version is our A version or their B version is, what else, especially if they don't even hit the same title, so, um, like for instance, I'm trying to think of one right now. Dark Child, which, because we also know about the Dark Child series from a French company, we refer to our Dark Child as Dark Child Image and Dark Child, whatever the French company's name is. Whereas Comic Collector, the export series that I was playing around with this last weekend, there was only one Dark Child because they didn't have as much of the day as we've got, and so it didn't really map to either of those, and there was no barcode that gave it up. Other times, as we've beaten up barcodes enough times on the program, you probably know that. Let's see if it shows up on camera. This is one of those times I really want a PTZ camera, but if I can get that, is it going to focus? No, it's just going to put me out of focus. Sweet. One of these days, guys, I'll get a PTZ camera where I can just zoom in on a close object on my desk and have it be in razor sharp focus. But the first, I believe it's 12 digits of a barcode on a comic book, are useful for getting approximate matches. They don't get you all the way there, but if you know, for instance, that you've got a bunch of data all in a row, which belongs to a title, and one of those, out of those 20 copies of the same thing that have the first 12 digits in common, if one of them has the full barcode, so I have a definitive match, then I can actually reverse engineer a great deal of the data to try to, with great confidence, know that, okay, if the first 12 digits match exactly to the first 12 digits of something I've got an exact match in ComicBase to, then I know exactly what title you're talking about at the very least. And I also get the publisher and other things that are useful like that. And if I can then compare other, markers of what the issue is, it's possible to actually scrape, we were averaging about 5 out of 6 of this very varied test set that we were working with to, get high confidence matches out of. And then the rest of it, hopefully, even if you like with Dark Child, there were no barcodes to go by. The publisher didn't match. They had it, down as Randy McQueen or something like that. Even though, I couldn't get a high confidence match without having a lookup table from one to the other. And I do not want to go down the path of lookup tables because with 69,000 titles listed in ComicBase already, and I imagine the other guys also have some number of titles in theirs, and everyone can change their title at any given moment. No, that is a bad way of trying to match titles like this. You really want something like a barcode that never changes. But yeah, we're interested in trying different people's data set and see if there are any other techniques we can throw at it to make it so that once that we can get high confidence matches on the vast majority of what you've got over here, and then leave you with at least a smallish number of hand matches to do. So that's about it. And you guys giving each other hassle about the forums. Yes, yes. And if you do have things like that, do post links to the forums, of course, as we've as we always advocate here on the Comic Base show. All right, but let's go get back on track here a little bit. So tons of new pictures, 931,000 total, as I mentioned, 50,000 new to just the last 6 months, 73,000 pictures for the professional edition. The database itself contains over 80,000 new comics that shocked me. I had no idea that basically in 6 months we managed to add that many new comic books. Our total count is now well over 1.1 million comic books, and it also has over 800,000, almost 800,000 new books, magazines, and newspapers added in the last 6 months as well. So just crazy amounts of new stuff. I mean, I can't get through the release without mentioning just how much the content has changed, and of course that also doesn't include however many, it's probably been over a million price updates during that time as well. We're getting a point now with the weekly update that we're putting out something like 60,000 price updates every week, and that's just nuts to me. All right, so other things in terms of back to program features, the archive edition in the ComicBase cover gallery. Let me queue up some of this stuff, so I'm not just talking just to myself here. Let me put myself on screen here, and let's see if I can find some of this stuff over here on my demo computer. Give me just a second to make the magic work, and so I can find my cursor. There we go. All right. So if you have the archive edition, you can go down to change your screensaver out, and there's one called the ComicBase cover gallery. Oh, by the way, a quick tip here for anyone who's interested in this. We did some research on one person had asked, well, hey, I've got different screensavers on my machine, and I can run them in demo, but they don't seem to run when you just leave them to be. So if I set this for 2 minutes before of inactivity before the screensaver is meant to kick in, I wait 2 minutes and nothing happens. What's going on? And we found out at least one of the major causes of that, and it might apply to you. So if that's something that's bugging you, I'll throw it out there, is NVIDIA's Shadow Play software, which I guess you use for game capture, apparently will knock out your screensaver. So if you are ever in that situation, check whether you've got NVIDIA Shadow Play turned on and turn it off, and then your screensaver will work again. All right. But anyway, if you go here and you have the archive edition, it comes with a thing called the ComicBase cover gallery as a screensaver because, hey, what's the point of having 931,000 pictures on the whole thing if you can't show the darn things off? Well, some of the new things we've got in here, first of all, you can choose what media you're showing, whether you want to show or hide mature items and so forth, what the speed is and so forth. But we also have a new option here where you can only show your owned items. In other words, only show things that are actually in your collection, which is very, very cool because at that point, when you go away from your machine and you come back from lunch or whatever else, your computer is going through a vast slideshow of your comic collection, and it's just neat. So check that one out. That's a new feature that was suggested in one of the live streams a while back, and we were able to make that happen. All right. Boy, I could live without the little bunk. Yeah, sorry, that happens when I switch between demo machines and not. I'll work on that one. All right, other things that are new, and let me see if I've got that in this version over here yet. Keep it on here. So let's go back to our reporting over here, and let's say I'm going to print a couple of price labels for some of this stuff. Let's see. Whoops. And of course, I'm trying to do this with a 4K screen that is partially off screen. So give me just a second. I have various audio meters and things like that that are cluttering up and making it so it's really hard for me to see what I'm doing. Just give me a sec. I'm going to pop this onto a larger monitor so I can see my own cursor. There we go. All right. So let me go ahead and highlight a couple of issues over here. And I'm going to right click and let's say I want to print price labels for these guys down here. So I'm going to come down here and print identification labels. And let's go to our Avery, our very favorite Dymo address label. All right, we've got a couple of new options here that we did not have before, and they're worth noting. And I want to give credit, by the way, to Walt Grogan for this one here, a customer for a long time, who, again, he says the things that you is the guy who created the program have been doing for so very long, and things have been changing so gradually over the 30 years we've been doing this, that you realize that it's the hardest thing to see is something that changes slowly. But one thing that changed between 30 years ago and now is we went from relatively sparse creator credits and storyline stuff, where once upon a time, if you had a storyline listed, it was part of some big multi-storyline crossover. If you had an artist listed, like John Byrne art or Jim Lee art, it was something that was so significant it would probably move the price. So think about the way the Overstreet price guide looked 35 years ago or 30 years ago, and it's the same kind of idea. But over the next 30 years, we filled in so much stuff. I mean, we're talking millions and millions of entries for creator credits and storylines and things like that. That when you start printing all of that on a label, it winds up being, you wind up switching to mouse print in order to get the whole thing in. So Walt Grogan said, "Hey man, I'm starting to print labels and everything, but hey, could we cut down the amount of data on that label so I can see the stuff that's important a little bit more?" And it's the most sensible suggestion ever. So we were happy to make that happen. You now can say, first of all, when you print a price label or an ID label, you could, of course, say whether you want to include a cover picture, but you also can say, all right, did you want the storylines? Do they really matter that much to you? If not, leave them out. Same thing goes with, did you want writer and artist credits? If they're not that important, leave them out. And then, of course, whether you want to include a barcode. And then when you preview, and let me go ahead and kick this off here. I hope I've got the printer set up on here so I can see it. Do, 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 do. Where is it? Okay. Well, okay. I didn't print it. I didn't print to a Dymo label print because there isn't one hooked up to my demo machine. But when you preview now, suddenly these labels don't have a ton of stuff that's all in mouse print. Suddenly the stuff actually looks at a decent size, and that is a nice thing. It makes it so that when your customers are browsing through your stuff, it's a lot more sensible in terms of being able to actually view the stuff, make use of it, and it even shows up so much better if you actually show this on a demo label printer. I'm gonna have to hook that up to my demo machine so we can see that. But the labels look quite a bit better without so much clutter involved, and so I think that's a real improvement. And I want to thank again Walt for suggesting that one because I think it makes a big difference. All right, let's go back here to. Doop, 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 doop. Sorry, I'm gonna switch my computer back so I can actually see what I'm doing on StreamYard. There we go. Oh yeah, there we are. I'm now keying myself inside myself. Awesome, cool. All right, other things that are new with label printing. So we have more ability to tailor those labels. In addition to that one, we also have the ability now to automatically put item titles. If you have something like Four Color Comics number 238 is the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn or something like that, it'll actually say what that is right on the label and so forth. That automatically is printed on all the reports if there's an item title present. We managed to squish a little bit of space, and we're literally talking about 2-3 pixels of finding that space to do it. But we managed to squish a little bit of extra space off of some of the Dymo label sizes, so we can make the titles that 1 or 2 points bigger than they would otherwise be able to do while still fitting. And what that effectively means, and on my favorite label of all time, the Dymo address label, the one I use for all of my comics, it means that we went from on a normal title being able to print it from 9-point Arial type bold to 10-point Arial type bold. Now, why the hell does Bickford care about a change that small? Well, the answer is because if you look at the font, and if some of us with older eyes get this all day long, in 9-point, a 5 and Arial bold looks virtually identical to the 6. There's like a pixel, of space that's not entirely filled in to let you know that between those two numbers as to which it is. So I'm constantly find myself staring at anything with a 5 in it to say, is this issue number 35 or is it issue number 36 and so forth. Adding that one extra point of difference makes all the difference in the world as far as being able to read those. So yeah, well needed. So and I want to say hello to Ed, of course. And let's see here. Yeah, sorry about that, Fred. Yeah, the label show cutting off the description text, but that's honestly, I don't have the print driver installed for that one. That's on the demo machine. I've got a little bit of work to do on that one, but we'll on the actual label, they should not cut off the text. All right, so let's see here. What is else going on? Large. So we had questions about resolution, large colors, full screen, awesome. Yeah. By the way, I'm on the screensaver on that one. I'm sorry about that one. Is that when we first did it, the screensaver, the default for whether or not it was going to show things full screen was turned off because I think our initial testing said people like kind of like the tiling effect. But what it'll do is whenever it finds a screen. A cover image that's over a certain number of pixels, I think it might be 850 pixels tall, it will automatically go into a mode where it will try to show that one full screen. Let's see if I can make that happen here. So if I go and kick on the screensaver right now, all right, so here we've got our tile, and yeah, there we go. So for instance, lucha por la vida con Juan Centella. Yes, I'm undoubtedly just murdering that, but honestly, but this is the screensaver going on here, and yeah, I think that looks cool. And if you let that roll, it will cycle to the next thing and so forth. So, all right, so let's go with that one. And let's see here. I just want to check one thing in the private chat. Give me a second. Uh, PC. Oh, you can drop the Chiron now. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. All right, I will do that as I switch back and forth between about a million things here. Yeah, one of the things we were looking at doing during the behind the scenes show here is trying to figure out ways. Is there some way you can get an audio channel between me and the producers that isn't part of this one? And I think, and if any of you guys do live streaming on this whole thing, clue me in on this one, because I think probably the way you would do that, and I'm just going to pull up a different camera and come back to it. If you want to have a separate background chat with your producer, do you open up a separate Discord channel that goes separately and just kind of keep headphones in? What anyone who's like actually good at this live stream thing, tell me how you do that. I want to know. It's about the only thing I could think of, rather than having like just like a Bluetooth headset going on with backstage or something. I don't know, but I'm curious about it. Okay, so let's see. People are comparing resolutions, but yeah, let's move on with the list. Okay, all right. So going back to things. All right. All right, let's get rid of the screensaver for now because that, again, it's the most minimal of the features, but honestly, it's oddly satisfying. I dig it. All right, other things going on there. We talked about the item title will appear on all the reports. We talked about the tweaks to the reporting thing, and we also, I think at the beginning of the show, we talked enough about the experimental import of the CLZs. And by the way, if you guys do have uh, like any of those any CLZ old files from there, or if you guys still are trying to get move data over there, please do reach out pbigford@human-computer.com because I would love to get some more mileage onto that one before we roll it out officially and let people know how it is. Basically, what we're looking for a way that we can automatically tag that this file came from CLZ, so it can just recognize it and automatically do the cleanup. That I think that'd be the cleanest way to go, but we're looking for the best way to go about that, and we'll just see what we can do. All right. All right. Other things that are new in this version. If I think was it Brian Stewart will be happy to hear that we solved an issue so that if you were ever adding a title and you somehow managed to put in a trailing space in it, that is no longer going to be an issue for you. Speaking of weird, twitchy things like that, we have gone through a stupid amount of effort to behind the scenes here in the last month or so to make sure that characters with that come from foreign alphabets, such as the E in Mark or Von Bodie, has it's called a macron. It's like a little bar right over the E. Those things are not found in the Windows Western character set, but now it's possible for them to be in your copy of ComicBase for you to automatically match them on the corrections as you type them in. And most importantly, when we push those up through the updates on our servers, turns out our servers were actually the gating factor on this one. uh, we can now automatically handle all those Unicode and foreign characters in a way that they come down as part of the corrections. So you're going to be seeing a lot more accents in your life, like, yeah, I guess going forward. So the poor guys, like Sergio Aragones or George Perez, will finally be getting their due in a somewhat more controlled way as we go forward. And it's just the right thing to do. All right, other things that are new. MP3, AVI, and WAV files can now be dragged onto a title and associated with it. So if I have if I've got an audiobook, or I've got something like the Lone Ranger, actually, it's interesting. There's actually a title called Batman: The Audio Adventures, which, as far as I know, is not an actual audio adventure, but I don't know. But anyway, but if you've got to say the Lone Ranger here, you could, if you wanted to, tag this thing and attach episodes of the Lone Ranger to it and drag them onto the individual issues and play those out there. Same thing goes for like The Shadow or any of those other great radio dramas from days gone by. Um, let's see here. Other things that are kind of cool. We added some new we're calling them periodicities. They are how frequently a title comes out. We've added the ability to have weekdays and Sundays, and so forth to magazines and newspapers. The cool thing about this one is if you are indexing a magazine or a newspaper that ran, say, weekdays and Sundays, and you say create the first 150 issues, this one is just say new issues 1 through 150, it'll automatically go to the calendar and do the right incrementing of the whole thing. So, if it's published every day except Saturday and Sunday, it'll count only weekdays and so forth. So that I think, for the people who are doing all the indexing of things like that, I think it'll help you quite a bit. Other things out there, log files. We talked about some of this before. Our log files, because we're pushing so much content now, have gotten so large that most people's web browser can no longer display them. So we've broken those up by separate periodicals and so forth. So you'll see separate logs for all the pictures that were downloaded. If you've got the archive edition, you'll see separate logs for comics, for newspapers, for magazines, for so forth. Uh, and that should help out quite a bit. Let me see. We fixed an issue that could recur when duplicating a newspaper. We're doing a better job of allowing submitting of huge numbers of pictures or corrections at once. So if, for instance, you want to send us 1,000 issues of the Jersey Journal, which someone did, they actually come across to us now as opposed to timing out your web connection and so forth. Anyway, and there's a bunch of other futzy fixes that came in during that time. Probably not worth getting into in huge amounts of detail, but I'm still glad we did it. So anyway, that is the basic gist of what's happening in the Q1 version of ComicBase. Like I say, we are looking for anyone who had any kind of issue with crystal reports under Mac emulation in particular. Please do reach out to me. I would love to talk to you some. And anyone with CLZ files, please reach out. I'm not sure what the final format of any kind of CLZ converter will be in the end, but I want to make it as good as we know how. And then I might even be putting the technology out there into the public, and letting other people run with it. But I know that there's a fair number of people who want to convert that data, and so yeah, I want to make that possible if we can. All right. Other questions that people have. Let's see. Oro says, great for foreign alphabetical, good upload 500 plus two soon. Oh, excellent, man. Thanks so much. And can multiple files and or file types be extensions be linked to one issue, or is it one issue, one link, please? At the moment, it's one issue. You can have a picture and you can have a piece of media. I'm trying to build out the use case for why it is you'd want to have more than one piece of data for a particular piece of media. And what I was thinking, just for extensibility standpoint, it'd be neat if you could have a folder, in the media folder named after a title, so you could put as much media for that issue as you wanted. I just when I was kind of sketching out the architecture in my head, I couldn't think of a rational reason I'd want to do it. But if you have a reason, or if you have a use case that makes any kind of sense at all, let me know, because I it's something I definitely have an interest in. I couldn't make anything more than theoretical sense for myself, so I didn't do it. But let me know. I'd be curious to see what folks think on that one. All right. I think that's about all I've got to get through on this one right now. If you guys don't have any other questions on this one, I'm actually probably going to park it a little early today, because, as you can tell, I am dying from allergies, and double dosing on Zyrtec and Benadryl is not getting me entirely out of the woods here. So before I sneeze all over the microphone, I think I'm probably just going to pack this one in. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for showing up on this one. I really appreciate y'all, and look for this one to be coming out in the next couple of days. And we'll take it there. I'm getting a note from the indexing guys. Looks like the update's getting pushed tomorrow. Looks like they're still working on this week's new books. So if you're looking for the content update, look for that one tomorrow. And that'll also be probably the database that forms tomorrow will be the one that we use as our base going forward for if you were creating a new database from scratch. And Armand also wants to remind everyone, do not forget we have a thread in the ComicBase message boards where you can request topics and demos for the live stream. Absolutely, guys. And let's see. Let's see. It suggests a film-related comic could have multiple trailers. Film-related comic with multiple trailers. Yeah, I guess I believe that. Huh. Okay. Well done, Ed. Let me see what I can do with it. I like that suggestion a lot actually, because I'm thinking right now of just Watchmen. They had short trailers, long trailers, so forth. What I'm thinking, and tell me how this one strikes everyone, is if you've got a folder full of media for a given item that, instead of playing it would click it, playing it would display you a short menu of saying, "Well, here's all the ones you could play and which one did you wanna do?" And it would just take that. Yeah, no, I think we'll take it. Or multiple director cuts. Makes perfect sense. Alright, guys, well, thank you. I always knew I could count on you guys for, for the lowdown and for great ideas, and honestly, I'm actually happy that, some of the ideas from chat we were able to put into the version as quickly as we could this time out. So, all right, guys, thanks so much. We'll see you on the other side. Take care. Take care. I'll see you next time after I have even more allergy drugs. Take care. Bye bye.